Oh, we are back 8:44 now with some valuable lessons that have been learned about the world around us during this pandemic. Mr. Roker's got this one. Hey, Al.
Hey, guys, thanks so much. Through our collaboration with Covering Climate Now, we spoke to UN Secretary General António Guterres ahead of next week's 75th session of the General Assembly. When the world went into lockdown last spring, a brief and beautiful transformation took place. Animals appearing in locations they hadn't been seen in years. Mountains and skylines revealed after decades shrouded in pollution. And a remarkable, hopeful drop in greenhouse gas emissions, the single largest contributing factor to climate change. This silver lining, however, quickly faded as countries started opening up. But one thing became crystal clear: society can enact change, and quickly. In a year unlike any other, the United Nations Secretary General gives the world direction on recovery, rebuilding, and a dire warning if action isn't taken now. Mr. Secretary General, you've been very direct in your messaging, talking to countries, saying they not only have to consider including greener regulations when it relates especially to COVID-19 economic stimulus. The two, you link them very closely. Why has that become such a mission?
I believe that we are facing a dramatic challenge with COVID-19. But this terrible challenge that has caused so much suffering and that has had a devastating impact on economies and societies is an opportunity. We need to rebuild. We need to invest massively rebuilding. So we can either rebuild as it was, which is a huge mistake because of the fragilities of the world, or we can rebuild a more inclusive and a more sustainable economy and society. And for that, that is why we've been recommending to have massive investments in green technologies, in green industries, in green energy.
When you talk about investing in green jobs, what are you talking about?
We need to have climate justice, which means to invest in green energy creates 3 times more jobs than to invest in fossil fuel energy. But at the same time, let's have social and economic measures addressing the needs of the people that is impacted by the transformations in society, namely climate action, and make their jobs be no longer existent in the economy.
You know, COVID and climate have really kind of stripped away the differences in societies. Where do you see us right now as a society?
Well, what is dramatic is that one of the fragilities that was so clearly underlined by COVID-19 is the fragility that comes out of inequality. Inequalities in income and wealth, but also inequalities linked to gender, inequalities linked to ethnicity, to race, inequalities of all kinds. We need, to the extent possible, to eliminate them, or at least to have equity and justice in the way we invest our resources when rebuilding our economies.
Paris Climate Accord, November 4th, the United States is scheduled to pull out. What does that do to a global effort to reduce those emissions?
Well, we need the United States' contribution to climate action. And I think it's important to say that even if the U.S. government has decided to leave the Paris Agreement, we see in the U.S. an enormous movement in favor to climate action. And I am very optimistic that this dynamic demonstration by the American society and the American business community will compensate for the lack of political commitment that exists at the present moment.
Yeah, we always look to our youth. Are you more optimistic because of this generation that's coming up?
Yes. I think it's our best hope is the generation that's coming up and that understood already, and we see it in so many ways around the world, understood already that either we are united or we'll be doomed.
UN Secretary General António Guterres. Also tomorrow, the World Meteorological Association and the UN are going to be releasing their State of the Climate report tomorrow. Findings expected to be fairly grim, with 2020 on track to be our hottest year on the planet ever.
That was a fascinating conversation. It's good to hear that he's optimistic.
Yeah.
You know? Thank you.
Al, thank you very much. And we're going to be back in a moment with our Crowd Plaza. Yeah, but first, this is Today on NBC.